I'm Stefan Spijkers, and welcome to this lightning demos and roundtables on PIM and PXM, Product Experience Management. We're having a great program today with 3 exciting speakers, a lightning demo from YZR.AI, where Jean-Philippe Poisson will give his vision on YZR and PXM, followed by a demo and presentation by Arjan Herskam from Calago. And then wrapping up will be Tony Majidi from Akeneo on how that tool is envisioning PIM and PXM. Quick introduction, I'm Stefan Spijkers. I'm the co-founder of PIMvendors.com. We're in a PIM consultancy, so any PIM experience and expertise that you need, you can ask us. We do PIM selections, PIM advice. We have a very cool tooling to do as is and to be analysis of your architecture and how PIM would fit that architecture. And we have a full set of independent knowledge on our website. So find your way after the session to our knowledge base and our tools to help you with your PIM discovery. I don't want to keep you guys waiting, but I have some housekeeping. So we'll start with 3 lightning demos. Each of them will take around 15 to 20 minutes. So they'll take turns presenting their tooling and their vision. We'll follow up with an open roundtable where all the speakers will be back for a roundtable session and a discussion with me. And we'll follow up offline with both the recording of the event, but also the slides maybe and a special promo. We are open for comments and questions. So there's a sidebar with comments and a chat, both on YouTube and on LinkedIn. We're live on both platforms. And I'll join both platforms as well to answer any questions right away, if that is possible. And if not, I'll come back to them during the Q&A. So if you have any questions, just put them right in and I'll come back to them live or during the Q&A. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker. Here we go. Jean-Philippe, hello.
Hi everybody. Hi, Stefan.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
You also have a video ready. Do you want me to share that right away, or?
Yeah. Just maybe a quick introduction. So, I'm Jean-Philippe Poisson. I'm co-founder of YZR.AI. We are in the product data normalization and enrichment field, and I would like to show you a video. Why I don't show you a demo is because it's mainly API, and API is not as engaging maybe as showing a platform or something like this. So the idea is more to show you a use case, which is the customer use case, which is Decathlon, a big retailer in France in the sports field, and to explain what we do for them, if it's okay for you.
Yeah, cool.
So basically, what we do at YZR is that we, So we are working on the e-commerce content. The e-commerce content is mainly for us product information, and that product informations are mainly text ones. So what we do here is we enrich and normalize the product informations, and we have 3 features. Our offer is quite basic and quite simple to understand, and I will just show you these 3 features. So the first one is to generate product titles and descriptions as we are going to see at scale. The idea here is to generate product descriptions and titles in multiple languages with very big volumes, as we are going to see, and with all you need, like optimization for SEO, tone of voice of your brand, optimization, marketing optimization, and so on. So the way that you work, so it's a generative. So I hope that everybody here is aware of how does it work. First, we mainly have to train the algorithm of YZR with existing product sheets that are good and reliable on your point of view. So we have some work first to produce these product sheets this first one, which we use for the training, and after we are able to generate at scale in millions of products descriptions in multiple languages. So so this task is mainly done by hand today. So the idea is to automate this painful and time-consuming task of writing these product titles and descriptions the good way, but also to give a lot of agility to the marketing team to do some events on the marketing. And for example, if we take a trade event like Christmas, with in a snap, you can change all your product descriptions in your PIM to have, or your website or your marketplace, to have an event description for your products. So here, the idea is to be more agile in the way that we use product sheets and product descriptions and titles for marketing purposes. But AI, as you may know, is not magic. You know this sentence, garbage in, garbage out. The idea is for training those algorithms, we need some clean and enriched data. So we have two features here to automate the cleansing pre-process of the generation. So these two features are categorization and attribute enrichment. First, categorization. Here we are going to extract from image and text the attributes to categorize the product in the good category, whatever the complexity of the taxonomy. And more important, we are able to do multiple categorization, because this helmet could be for bike, but could be also for scooter. So when the interest here to categorize, and when you have the good category, you know that you have the good attributes to enrich. And here we are going to extract from the image and from the text all the information that we need to fill the attributes that are missing, or to normalize it if they are not reliable. So today we are an API. We can integrate seamlessly in your marketplace or your e-commerce platform. We have, to be honest, as much configuration as we have clients, because it depends of your data ecosystem. I've seen some slides of what we are going to see after, and it could be very complex, this ecosystem. So the idea is to be very simple and to be able to connect everywhere you need to enrich and clean your product data. So, for example, we can be between the vendor on body platform and the marketplace. We have connectors with Miracle, for example, or we can be after the PIM and before the e-commerce website. The idea is to process at scale this product information and this product titles and descriptions. And we work for big retailers in Europe that trust us. And we have two main partners that are SAP and Microsoft. Thank you.
All right, that was a very quick demo. Do you have anything to to add, Jean-Philippe, or shall we head on to the
the idea is I think that the concept is very easy to understand. What is interesting is to understand how we do it. so I think that the conversation during the roundtable around AI, PXM, will be a great way to share some experience on the AI side, on the challenges if you want to implement that kind of tool. It's not so easy that we can see when we use a ChatGPT, so it could be interesting to share.
And it's very difficult to demo an API. Maybe if people wanna see the tool in real life, is there a website or a YouTube address where they can see some of the results?
Yes, but the best way, as you understand, we have a quite back-end solution. So the best way is to get in touch, and we are going to demo it to some clients use case. We prefer to talk about with some technical guys about integration and so on.
All right, then with the technical mind with the technical people in mind. So how does your tooling then differ from the competition? So how does YZR differ from like standard approaches?
So, yeah, so the main differentiator is that we are working now for it's been like 5 years now of research and development on this LLM things. The main thing is to have a kind of library of algorithm and to be able to choose the good one through the API for the good use case. And the complexity is that you have sometimes different algorithm depending on the categories or the attributes. So it's not so easy. You can have like a one size fits all tool to treat all the product information. So this complexity that is the main barrier today. And on the other side, we are working a lot to get always in advance of the market. So, for example, the attribute extractions from the images is something quite new and quite reliable now, because the problem is that you have to extract reliable information with a good accuracy and a good level of trust. And now we are reaching some very good accuracy on that kind of tool.
Yeah. So you're using specialized language models, specialized AI
Exactly.
tools for specific subcategories or
Yeah.
clients or both.
Yeah.
I think what we've seen in AI in the past 5 years, maybe, or at least in the past year, is that maybe the solution is not just having dedicated specific models, but having more compute and having one big model. So
Yeah.
how does that
Yeah.
specialization differ from maybe doing everything with a
Yeah.
simple ChatGPT prompt?
So the problem of ChatGPT is that it's trained on very generalistic or general data, you must train it on the product of your client, because it could be very specific in some industries first. And the other side is that we have built on top of these LLMs some ML models and so on to verify the responses of the LLM. So for me, the war is not on the foundation ones, but on the control, the human control and the automation of the human control of the answers of the LLM. This is where I think that is going to be the real battle, to have accuracy and reliability with that tool.
Yeah, because I mean, you're touching on the what some people call hallucination, right? So
Exactly.
the ChatGPT just creating attributes out of thin air, or creating text, or creating, well, that's the whole tool, is creating attributes or text out of thin air.
Yeah.
But it will also give maybe wrong attributes. So could you explain the risks and how you mitigate those
Yeah.
with YZR?
Yeah, sure. So the idea is to extract the information from the brain of the people who knows. And who are the people who know? This is the product category manager, this is the marketers, and so on. So we, for example, if we take Decathlon, a pair of sneakers could be in a category or in another, depending on the strategy, the marketing strategy of the brand. It's not a kind of one size fits all categorization. So we must train the algorithm with information coming from the people that have the information, that who does the strategy and so on. So we just automate a lot with active learning and some kind of AI tools like this, automate this training phase, because we can't guess in the taxonomy of one retailer or another what is his view of his taxonomy, his strategy, and so on. So we must train it, and this information is not native in the LLM that are general ones. So the main point is to train the algorithm on the data normalization and enrichment with people that have the information, and this is at the core of the value proposition of YZR since day one. This active learning, normalization and enrichment, to give access to people to train the algorithm and to react to the hallucinations or errors of the LLM, and not asking him 3 or four times the same return, because we are working on millions of products with our clients, and it's not manageable by hand. We just have to have the good threshold between reliability, extracting the information from the people who know, and from the automation. So this is not so easy to set up, in fact.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, we have some questions from the audience as well, and I will get back to those mainly during the Q&A, and also since we want to move forward to the next speaker. But I have one small question from Anna, who is asking about basically prompting. So her question is, what criteria you use or what that YZR use to generate SEO-friendly titles? Can you see the question?
Sure. And it's a very good one. So there is human know-how behind this SEO optimization. It's exactly as I just said, is that you have to have, we work with the marketer of the brand or the retailer of the marketplace, and we work with them, with their best practice to implement them in the algorithm. It's not a one size fits all for everybody, SEO optimization. We have, when we work with Decathlon, IDEO, and so on, Monoprix, and so on, there are people that know how to do it and that do it well for their needs. And the idea is more to have a rule-based approach with them to customize the SEO optimization with them. So there is no magic tool for that. This is where we are after 5 years of experience now. We must train the relevant informations into the algorithms.
Yeah. Okay. And does what SEO friendly means also differ from a client to client basis? So what is SEO friendly for Decathlon different than for Monoprix?
The truth is that yes, because they don't have the same strategy, they don't have the same experience. They have experience in their SEO optimization field with their competitors. So it's more, if you want to reach the level that they are doing by hand or their agencies, it's not with the one size fits all tool. You must set up it and train it.
Yeah, and check it. Okay, cool. Jean-Philippe, I'm going to switch to the next speaker. I'll see you. I'll see you back during the Q&A, and we'll go to Arjan here. Arjan, welcome to the stream.
Hi,
and
welcome everybody.
And I would say you have the floor. Take it away.
Yes, thank you. Let's start sharing my screen. So I hope you can see my screen. Well, first a short introduction of myself. My name is Arjan Herskam. I am the founder of Calago. Calago is a system integrator. We are specialized in implementing product information management. And our objective is to deliver the best product information for your customer to enable you to do that. Well, one of the cornerstones, of course, of being able to do that is having a good PIM solution. And this is a challenge for many, many companies, how to choose the right solution. And why is this a challenge? Well, I just listed a number of vendors here. And if we look only in the Dutch market, we talk about 50 plus solutions in the field of product information management. And if we look abroad, if we look internationally, it's like over 250. And what we see is there are a lot of, between quotes, independent advisors. And yeah, I think everybody a little bit knows that this is a kind of elephant in the room. So how do you get independent advice? And how independent is your advisor? So everybody, of course, is limited to the knowledge of the systems they know, but also in the background, there are arrangements between advisors and ISVs in some occasions. So then the question is, how can you solve this issue. How can you get the best solution and have a kind of independent selection process? Well, first, I think we have to look at a number of things. Of course, trust is good, and you cannot say that every advisor you cannot trust. So I think that's perfectly well. But on the other hand, knowledge is better. And this is how we look at how to select the best solution, which in the end can provide the best product information to your customers on all your touch points. If we look at the current practice today, mainly is and what we see is what we call like a 500 feature scoring process. And I think that many of us have this experience. So what does that look like? And it's an Excel list, sometimes a quick scan, and then an Excel list of many features, a standard list where you go through with your advisor and then fill it in, and to see what is important, what is not important. So the characteristics is that you have at that moment a strong dependence on the advice you have, the support you have. So you rely on external recommendations and missing out on the personal insights. There's a long Excel list with features, and I think for many it will be overwhelming, and it's very hard to prioritize what is really important for your organization. What we see is in what it leads to is that companies select or prioritize things of what they think is important, without really understanding the fundamental needs and functionalities. And that is because you're missing a framework of understanding what is key. And it makes it very hard to distinguish between important and less important. Now you can take an example, a detailed example is inheritance of attributes, for example. If you score this, what does it really mean? How does it really fit into your process? Fits it into your process? And I think for a first glance, you think, okay, it's going to save me time. There's a lot of people say, yes, this is important. It's just an example where you can ask yourself the question if that really is true. So that means that based on theory and assumptions, a lot of choices are being made, prioritizations are being made. And the risk there is it's not aligned with the practical reality and the actual business needs. And it creates a problem. The scorecard has a limited depth. So do you really cover all essential PIM aspects? And especially what you see, it's starting to get really dynamic. So today we're talking about AI. So new features are being introduced monthly by, I think, the leading vendors, and which I think Akeneo is one of them, and it's going to present today. I think there's a lot of subjectivity. So scores can be influenced by personal preferences. If you have a team on the table who has the most influence, who is verbally the strongest, is most persuasive in such discussions, but does it really is most important for the company? You can ask yourself that question. It's very feature focused. And we think, of course, features is very important, but there are other things in play when you select a solution. Standardization of issues. So can you really compare PIM systems one-on-one? Sometimes it is, but also many times it is not. There are sometimes fundamental differences. It doesn't appear in those lists. And I think a problem what we see is a mismatch with the real business needs. So select the PIM that may not actually address your business needs, maybe for now, but you need also to look at the future. So this is what we see. So what, and of course, the inflexibility of the scorecard, and just what I mentioned, I think the field and the developments of PIM is very dynamic and rapidly evolving right now. So we have a new approach. We do this in the partnership with PIM vendors. We support PIM vendors in the selection process. And so the question is a little bit, so what does Calago do and what does PIM vendors do? Because Calago is a system integrator. We have partnerships with 3 ISVs, which is Akeneo, which is Prodexa, and which is Synigo. So basically, for the selection itself, we are not the right partner, but we have a part in our process which is very helpful and which we call the blueprints. So our approach is blueprints and scenario scoring. So what does that mean? Is that an agnostic approach where you start, explore and discover your real situation, what it is today and what you want it to be in the future, and advices around that if we look at product information management and the product information data process as a whole. And we create what we call a solution blueprint without taking the solution, the PIM solution in account. This solution blueprint is handed over to PIM vendors, and PIM vendors takes it from there to do a selection. And maybe, Stefan, you can tell a little bit about this selection process, how you pick up the process from the solution blueprint.
Sure, Arjan. So
Yeah.
We use the output of the solution blueprint and basically the key scenarios, the key use case scenarios from the client as the starting point for the selection process. So instead of comparing those 500 question requirement lists, right, where obviously the customer wants everything and the vendor usually offers everything, we really zoom in on the key requirement scenarios from the solution blueprint for you as a customer. And then during the demos, we ask the vendor specifically to showcase their tooling in those scenarios. And of course, there's room for their unique selling points as well. But the scenarios are the key driver for the decision. And then we compare them and re-rank them. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So talking about this approach, so what is this solution blueprint? What does it really mean? So we're looking at the current and the future situation, and we do this from 4 different angles, which is people, which is process, which is data, and which is technology. And during this process, we are going to sit with the team of the customer and build together their solution blueprint. It consists of a number of steps, which is a kick-off session where we have task assignments. So who's going to be involved? What are the roles? What are your tasks, actions? We make a planning how to execute this process. And also in this kick-off session, we make a start on the as-is situation, just to get some first view, and maybe you can see it as a little bit as the quick scan with the old approach, to have a first view on what your situation is. Then we're going to do an in-depth analysis on your as-is situation, because it's very important to understand your current processes, because a number of your current needs will also be transferred to your future situation. And it's important to have this on the radar. So we get a depth as-is situation where we look at the current processes. So how are you handling the process of product information management today, which can go from the source, which are, for example, suppliers, or maybe your design departments, and your internal processes of enrichment, and in the end, the delivery to the different touch points. We look at who is involved internally, stakeholders, externally, suppliers, maybe data sources, but also customers. We look at how your current data and data model looks, and the usage of your current technology, and also try to understand what the background is. And certain decisions has been made. There could be very important reasons and a reason to understand why. Then we're going to look at the to-be situation, which is the situation directly after the implementation of a PIM solution, but also with a view on further future, which is short and long-term objectives. Which processes do you require to reach those objectives? The new data and data model, and what data do you really need, and what data model applies to that new situation? How do you organize this? So who is involved? Governance. Then we look at also technology and integration. What technology fits to your organization and fits to your strategy? Where do we need integrations? And in the end, we also write down all the user stories to implement a PIM system. So you have clear scenarios that you can use for testing and challenging the ISVs. In the end, we wrap this up in what we call a solution blueprint, a solution design document. This will be validated by internal stakeholders to make a check, is this really how we look at the current situation and the new situation? There is a presentation to management, and then we transfer this to PIM vendor, who's going to continue the process independent of us. So there our role stops, and PIM vendors picks it up from there and is executing the final selection process. So what are key benefits of this solution and this approach? First of all, where we started with is trust is good, and I believe so, but knowledge is better. So during this process, we transfer a lot of knowledge on your own organization, on the new processes, on product information in general. And you have the team aligned. So everybody who is involved in this new implementation is aligned and understands what you're going to do. So there is a common understanding on the vision and the objectives. So you have a team buy-in, the transfer of essential knowledge, which I think will make you a mature a member of a team who's going to do the selection and can be very critical during ISV demos. Then we have the validation, of course, of the initial PIM criteria against the market realities and your real organization needs. So considerably less assumptions and based on the right priorities. We also create in the solution design document preparation and planning, also already for your implementation, because you identify potential challenges and requirements which are essential for your selection and also the implementation of a suitable PIM system. You have a clear roadmap with phases and prioritization and time and cost estimations for a good budgeting and resource allocation, which I think is very important for the success of your projects. And that means you have a foundation of the projects, including your priorities. There is risk analysis and mitigation. We know every project has a risk, so this is already identified during the blueprint phase. So it's the early identification of potential risks. I think this is interesting. You can bring them to the table with your software vendor and discuss them with them. You can also already discuss risk mitigation strategies and minimize these risks during the selection process. I think it is important already to look at a very early phase at risks and then avoiding cost changes and rework in later phases. And of course, identify the cost-effective solutions and strategies for your PIM selection process, because you are going to have a long-term commitment with the ISV. And of course, last but not least, technical and operational assessment. So the look at the technical feasibilities and operational requirements of a possible PIM system. I think it's very important. And I think if you look at the current field, and there is a lot of difference between the different vendors. And also the identification of the skills and how to effectively use a particular PIM system. And this is also I think, very important to understand what is needed within your organization to run the system. So if you think, hey, this is an interesting approach, I want to learn more, I want to understand more, what we can do is we can give you an example of a solution blueprint. We can share that with prospects. So if you're have some ideas of selecting a PIM or are in the process, we can share an example with you. And of course, we can offer a first free workshop with no obligations, just to get a little bit of touch of this approach and to see if that is something which is appealing and is going to help your organization. So that's it for me. Maybe there is some time to take some questions, or maybe Stefan has some questions for me.
I always have questions,
Good.
Arjan. No, I think what I would like to add is right. PIM vendors does independent PIM selections, right? So there's no like, as you discussed, the elephant in the room, where there is maybe one or two or three vendors that we work with, and every independent analysis that we do is not tied to one of those PIMs, but to our full portfolio.
Right.
But I really like how the solution blueprint also leads to independence on the customer side, right? So in one way, of course, it's great for consultants to keep selling hours because the customer doesn't know anything, is not educated. But with the solution blueprint, and especially the whole process and the handover and the education in the whole process, during the whole process, you get educated customers who can basically have a discussion at the same level as we can, or at least very much on the same level.
I think that's the core of this approach. So we educate the customers. So as a company, one of our core values is to share knowledge. I think the more you learn as a customer in this process, the better really independent selection you are doing. Because now, of course, PIM vendors is supporting you, is knowing the market, is facilitating this process, and is really independent because you are having a wide range of solutions which you're knowledgeable about. But the most important thing that the customer itself, by that time, is also very aware of where they are today, where they want to go tomorrow, how those processes look. Really understand key requirements without diving in all kind of details, which I think can perfectly be discussed during demos. You don't need to fill out all kind of lists. I think that's a little bit a waste of time, to be quite honest. And I think they will come to a much better solution. And sometimes in practice, so things for example, you need to take in account. Where are you as an organization? How mature are you as an organization? So sometimes it's better to have, even though your organization from a needs wants to have a very high-end solution, maybe it's better to start with a smaller solution, because you understand my organization needs to learn more about PIM, needs to understand the basic, needs to work with PIM, and then take it within whatever 1.5, 2 years to a next level. So I think, and that is not something you're getting out of the Excel exercise. So that's just an example.
Yeah. So basically, you don't know what you want if you don't understand what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think just to share, and I see Wouter has a question, but I will answer that, just to share you a little bit of our experience. Wouter's asking, how long are we doing this? We've been building on this for the last 4 years, just because basically it came out of the implementation needs. And we noticed that just bluntly starting a PIM implementation with a plan and a fixed approach always led to a lot of issues and problems during the implementation. So this is where we started doing a blueprint phase as part of a project, educating the customer up front, going through this process together. And we also learned if we don't do it, then issues occur in your projects. So we've been doing this for 4 years, and we in the meantime we've done a lot of these blueprints with Calago, and of course we continuously improving it. So that's I think also we are a learning company. You had a question, Stefan. No, I forgot your question.
No, well, basically, one thing is the customer that doesn't know what they want, and they want everything, so they choose the biggest best solution, which they then under optimize and are not using fully. I would venture you also see the other way around, where people optimize for the short term and try and select a PIM that fits their current needs instead of one.
So that could be part. If so, and I agree. So, and I think it's not good or bad, but it must be a conscious choice. So, and if you don't do this process, then you think I just need something right now, and then we'll move ahead. But if you just go through the process and look at the strategy, long and short term, it could very well be the decision still is I'm going for a short-term solution. But it could be that you say no, because we know already within 2 or 3 months we get stuck because we want a number of things, and now selecting this solution is giving us a problem within a few months. So so that's why I think this more holistic approach, looking at the whole picture and not at the number of features and doing a quick scan, will almost certainly deliver a better, and I would say much more balanced choice for your organization.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe just to quickly go back to the question about how we use the solution blueprint as PIM vendors. So the solution blueprint is done in a vendor agnostic sense. So it is not tied to a specific vendor, and it is just to identify as is, to be, and basically the requirements between those. The scenarios, the key usage scenarios, are used as input for a broad selection. So across the whole spectrum of PIM vendors, PIM solutions available. Obviously, for a small startup, you're not able to pay for a STIBO type of solution. And maybe as a big enterprise, you have requirements that definitely do not fit what a small entry-level PIM can supply. But in general, the solution blueprint will be the input for a broad PIM selection. Yeah.
Right. So, and of course, if you, because we are going to design the process and who's involved in the governance, so you will see within a bigger organization with a higher complexity. And so the solution blueprint will be shared with the ISVs. So I think then you have a very good foundation for a good discussion. Okay, this is how we see the process. These are the swimming lanes. This is how we want to do governance. So how are you going to address this? I think these are the fundamental discussions you need to have with potential vendors you want to do business with. We also look at the future. So that means all kind of steps you want to take in the future. Some vendors have already features ready. Some have them on the roadmap, but you can discuss it, and you can also, in an agreement with a vendor, demand that they're going to deliver maybe certain features within a certain time frame if they're ready to commit on that. So there is so much to say about this than just filling out an Excel. So that's the whole thing, you know. So that's why I think this is an approach which fits much better the current time and situation also in the market.
Yeah. I think maybe coming back to Martin's question around moving away from technology and just features, I think you just answered that. That's how you do it, by helping the customer understand the requirements and understand the features, understand what they're choosing. Yeah.
Well, and additionally, but I don't know what your experience is, but I also heard the vendors say, let's get rid of those RFQs with all those lists of features. And I understand what they're saying. So one of the points is it's like trying to standardize things, which are not always, just the example of inheritance of attributes. you can implement this in software in different ways. So, and then just what happens, everybody says yes. And sometimes they give some additional comments, but it doesn't touch the essence. Is, do you need it, and what do you need? So exactly. So, and then I think it looks like it's a very tight, organized process, but I think it's a blurry process, and it just gives you some wrong ideas. And sometimes from the field, and this may be the last thing I can say, I heard from also from the field from another consultant who was within a big retail company, and he was implementing. He hadn't done the selection, and so the customer said, "Well, I thought we have this and this feature because we filled it out on the list." He said, "Well, show it to me." "Oh yeah, that's on. Do you understand what they mean here?" So they completely misunderstood what they meant, but it's impossible if you go through big lists and people are taking assumption and think they understand what it is, and then it turns out to be something different. So that's, I think this is the reason why we are taking this approach. And yeah, the experience until now, I think are nice.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Arjan. You'll be back for the roundtable, and we'll maybe touch on this for sure. And a lot of comments on this, so maybe we can revisit those. But from a time perspective, we're going to switch.
Thanks.
Going to remove you from the scene. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And it's already time for our final speaker of today. Uni, welcome to the stream.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Stefan. Hey, everyone. Good to be with you. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll take you on a whirlwind tour of Akeneo, PXM, and then a brief sneak peek in terms of a demo, followed by the Q&A. I am the Northern European sales director at Akeneo, been with the company for 5 years, and I lead the team that's based in Amsterdam. That's also where I'm from. So let's start with a few slides, and Stefan, let me know if we're all good to kick it off for some context. So when we talk about PXM, our notion is it's the foundation of customer experience. And when we look at customer experience, let's just consider the customer journey. So according to Google, on average, you have approximately 17 touch points before a customer converts. 17. What that also means is you have about 16 touch points where you can basically mess this up. Now, one bad product experience may not cost you the customer, but 2 or 3 or so-so experiences definitely will lower the odds of that customer choosing to selecting a particular product that you're offering. Now, the other thing to consider is how is basically the journey, what does it consist of in terms of discovery and so forth. What is the traditional, the well-known story of nowadays? It can either be a poster, a store where they browse through something online, and it all kind of cross-pollinates each other. At all those points, the product experience should be complete, accurate, up to date, and where possible, personalized. These are just the basics. Now, let's look at what's happening on the other side, the customer side. So our customers, basically you, when you organize the product experience. On that front, what we see, what we hear is that individuals have their own objectives. Let's say we have James on the upper right corner managing the e-commerce website experience. He needs to make sure the products are up to date and optimized for that particular destination. And then if we look, for example, at Charles, the bottom left corner, that's managing the product info for the Amazon channel, he has different priorities. He needs to make sure it adheres to the Amazon requirements in terms of where it should be categorized, all the different attributes Amazon needs, and so forth. The same thing if you look at, for example, social media people or customer care afterwards, they all work in their individual silos, sometimes with Excel sheets, sometimes with a hacked so-called PIM system. And in the end, there's no alignment. And the result of all of this is chaos. Because when we take a look behind the scenes where product information is managed and how customers ensure that there is a holistic product experience strategy behind it, it's non-existent. There's a lot of pain there, and that's mainly one of the reasons why we come up with, first of all, a product experience strategy. What does this entail? We start, first of all, in here, the very basics, and that is managing every piece of the product record. So this, first of all, means centralizing the data in one place where you can work on it as a team. Step number 2 is, of course, orchestrating and configuring it by normalizing it, controlling the entire product record. And then we continue with the activate and optimize part. Basically, we make it ready for the various channels, various locales, markets and countries, and so forth. And then the final part of a product experience strategy, according to us, is you want to make sure you act on it by analyzing the results, looking at how can we refine the product experience with something actionable to drive performance. The color codes on this, and what we present here, they basically indicate the different solutions that we offer as part of our platform. Today, because of time constraints, we will focus primarily on the flagship solution, which is the PIM that we have. This is, in a nutshell, a simplified version of how you can imagine it. The idea is to manage data from any source, whether it comes from ERP, from suppliers, marketing. You gather it in the PIM, where you have the ability to enrich it, translate it, manage it, and of course, activate it for the various channels. And then when the products are ready and contextualized, it's sent to e-commerce, to marketplaces, mobile apps, and so forth. The way the products are presented should not be identical. I mean, that's the whole point of contextualizing it for and optimizing it for that destination. That's a complexity that cannot be managed in an Excel sheet or something that's been created in-house potentially. Now, a PIM in and of itself, without interaction with the rest of your ecosystem, is not of much value. It's extremely important that it's open and has the ability to interact on the back end with concepts like a DAM system. Your ERP is very important, but also with data pools like, let's say, ATIM and so forth. On the front end, whatever e-com solution you have in mind that you want to work with or want to replatform to, the PIM should be compatible with that. So there's big names on that front as well that we personally work with, but we still stay agnostic in terms of how we optimize the PIM and how we develop it. Now, when you're talking to your CFO and she asks you, okay, that's a cool story, but why should I invest in PXM? It comes down to tangible business outcomes that can be pointed to. Things like productivity is one thing, but how can you make it more specific? Well, you're looking at concepts like improve the time to market. But by that we mean we shorten it, in some cases by up to 70%. You're looking at things like, if you're in the B2C, let's say, reduce the returns, which costs a fortune nowadays. And then when you're expanding to new markets, new channels, new languages, how can you do this as efficiently as possible? Thanks to a properly set up PXM, a PXM strategy, and obviously a partner that guides you to this with correct processes and the people that underpin all of this, you have the ability to easily expand into these markets. And of course, finally, something specific is increase the conversion, the performance per channel, which can bring massive returns. Now, just some example, when it comes to B2B and B2C, we work with just about everyone. We're primarily focused on brands, retailers, and manufacturers. And you see the names in there. We have about 800 customers worldwide. And finally, don't take it from me when it comes to Akeneo, of what the benefits are and how it distinguishes it how we distinguish ourselves from our competitors. There are various resources available, including analyst reports like IDC. There's customer reviews on pages like G2, and of course others that you can access once we share the info afterwards. And finally, before we jump into our brief demo, this is a recent announcement. We will cover the AI topic afterwards in the Q&A, but we have acquired a very exciting company and team called Unify, and this gives us the ability to create the world's first intelligent product cloud. Basically, with these AI capabilities already, we have the ability to solve very specific use cases like helping our customers when it comes with supplier onboarding data. But with Unify, we can scale this and potentially help it also within the PIM itself and when it comes to syndicating it. But more on this in the Q&A. Having said this, I'd like to briefly switch to the demo itself, how it looks like, to give you a sneak peek of, first of all, UI and how on a daily basis an individual logging into Akeneo manages the product info here. It's a SaaS solution, so we log in, that's as simple as possible, and this is where I am. In this case, the system knows me as an end user and has the ability to tell me what are the projects that are relevant to me with the products that I should be enriching. And in this case, there's a project called New Collections. It's 60% complete, and I see that the products are categorized in to-do, in progress, and done sections. My job when I log in is to make sure that all the products that are in progress are transferred to done, because that means they're fully enriched. And when I scroll down slightly here, we have the ability to see for which channels, how complete they are. So we have, in this case, an example of an e-commerce channel, a B2B channel, and let's say print publishing. This could be mobile app. We have 3 just as an example. You can scale this to as many as you'd like. And within every single channel, we see the locales. How complete is the product info for this particular project when it comes to German language, when it comes to Spanish, and so forth. Let's click on these 320 products that are waiting for me as part of this new collection project that I'm supposed to enrich and see how it looks like. We're taken immediately to the products tab here, and I see all the 320 products listed here. I have the ability to filter down on the left side by using specific filters, like what's the status? Is it complete? Is it enabled, disabled? So for example, I do it's enabled. I want to make sure that I only see things that are not complete and so forth. In addition, I have the ability to search. So for example, if I type in something like Sony, I'll immediately get a Sony PS4. I see that it's 75% complete. It's one of the products within this project that I'm responsible for because I've been invited when this project was created. So let's enrich it. Let's take a look at the Sony PS4. This is the product view when we look at it. Title, always the context. We're looking at it for the e-commerce channel and for the American English locale. The completeness is 75%, which means of all the required attributes, 75% have been filled out. Not every single attribute that's that shows up as part of Sony PS4 is required. What is required and what's optional is something up to you. You decide that part. The attributes are all listed here, all categorized in concepts like general, ERP, and so forth. I want to make sure I only fill out or see the ones that are required. So what I can do is click here, and immediately it will filter out all the attributes except this one. This yellow dot means it's a required one. And now what I can do is write down my PS4 story, and then we click on save. And there you go. It's fully complete. We're done. We're done when it comes to US English in the e-com channel. For example, if I switch right now to Dutch, you'll note it's empty because obviously I'll have to do this in Dutch, and then we use save, and it's complete here as well. Note something else, which is very important. When we look at the completeness of this, if let's say I switch to a different channel, the completeness here will be, it's also complete. But one thing I want to show you is one of the things you can manage with concepts like channel is that you decide which attributes are required per channel, and they can obviously differ. You'll note that it's 100% for B2B, but it's empty for the description part, which means this is not a required attribute. That's one of the main reasons to create channels. First of all, the completeness can be different, but also the way you describe it. A Sony PS4 described for a B2B customer is completely different to a B2C, and that combined with which attributes are required gives you a lot of maneuverability to adjust it for those destinations. Then, just briefly, some other concepts that are important is we have the ability to manage multiple attributes together by working with something called reference entities. So for example, if I have certain suppliers, instead of writing down something about my supplier behind every single product, which is time consuming, we can work with this. So I create this concept for Acer, which contains an image, a label, I can include country and so forth. And then whenever I'm enriching products, I can basically include this. And this is how it looks like. Whenever I'm enriching this particular Acer product, you'll see that I have the ability from a drop-down list to select Acer. It will inherit all the attributes that are part of Acer. That's reference entities. Customers use this if let's say if you're in the food sector for allergies, if you're in retail for sizes or washing instructions. It's really powerful productivity tool. Inside the PIM, we also have a digital asset manager, a light version, but this is sufficient for most customers when it comes to managing their assets inside the PIM. And what we can do here is, again, to stick to the example, search for particular assets. And whenever we click on an asset, let's say this headphone, we have the ability to do a few things, which one of them is create custom versions like thumbnails, specific versions for e-com, and so forth. All of this, by the way, is created automatically when you upload the image. And here we see to which particular product this image is linked to. This linking, when you upload an image into the PIM, it also happens automatically. Huge time saver and also an accurate way of working. The way we link them is by taking a look at the image name. And let's say this MDRVV5 happens to be also something that comes back in the label of a particular product, and then we will match them automatically. Just looking at the time, Stefan, do we have a few more minutes?
Sure, go ahead, Tony.
How about this? I'll continue until you stop me. So that's just on the asset part. Another thing I want to show you, which is very exciting, is the ability to connect Akeneo directly through plug-and-play apps from our app store by simply coming in here, searching for something, and then basically having it live. One of them, which a lot of people are excited about, is obviously AI. So let's say I type in something like GPT, you'll see that there's an app available here, ChatGPT, by a particular product partner of ours. With this app, you have the ability to, first of all, generate descriptions. You can translate, and more stuff is coming. All you have to do is basically connect to this, and then make sure that you have a paid account with OpenAI as well. Whether it's 3.5 or 4, doesn't matter. We could connect to both of them, and then you can leverage OpenAI's ChatGPT from within the PIM by using it for concepts like translation, generating descriptions, and so forth. Finally, just one thing I want to show you when it comes to usability and how easy it is for the end users, owners of the PIM, to manage it and adjust things without having to call anyone else, because that's one of the most important things about Akeneo, which is the user friendliness. Is if we go, for example, on the settings side and we take a look at something called families, which is a data template essentially, a product template. Look, we have various families here, and one of them is for game consoles. If we click on it, you've seen that we enriched a PS4. In here, we have all the attributes the way it is right now. And obviously, we've set this up for you together with a partner, Calago, for example, by taking a look at your data model. But let's say at some point you decide, you come here and you say, well, actually, I'd like to add a particular attribute to this product template. That's very easy. Just click here, select a particular attribute you'd like to add, and it will be included in here. The next thing you can do on the spot is checking, for example, for the e-commerce, deciding that, well, you know what, the brand part code, for whatever reason, is from now on a required attribute, just by checking this part. And that means it becomes required. It's obviously not filled out right now. And all the products that are part of the game console will get this additional attribute. The completeness will go from 100%, let's say, to 90%. And then the people working on those products will be able to adjust it. And this automation is very powerful, and flexibility also allows you to be very agile.
Maybe Tony, before you wrap up and before we head on over to the Q&A and the roundtable, there's a question actually on mass edits, so selecting multiple products and applying changes to them. Is that something you maybe can show live before we wrap up?
Of course, good question. So look, I come to the product part. Whenever I select one, you'll note this pops up. And then what we can do is select multiple products, or if you say, I actually like to select all of them, I like to select all of them. And then the concept of bulk action is very straightforward. Here, we can edit attributes, change families, associate the product with something else, and so forth. So yes, we can do that, absolutely. Did that answer your question?
I think so. We'll get some answers from the chat. What I'll do, Tony, is I'll start adding the other speakers as well, and I'll remove your screen from the stream. So welcome back, Arjan. Welcome back, Jean-Philippe. Lots of questions in the chat. I have some topics prepared, but since we basically ended on artificial intelligence, and it's basically on all our minds, or has been maybe since let's see, December last year, when ChatGPT-3 was launched. There's a question from Luke specifically on how to determine, or is there a possibility to determine whether the attribute itself is good? Is whether the attribute is good quality by means of AI. So I think basically it's I would say a data cleansing or data quality check through AI. Is there anyone who wants to pick up that answer? Maybe you, Jean-Philippe?
Yeah, so the point is that we start with a taxonomy that is fixed, and we have a list of attributes in each category. So to verify if it's good or not, it's a question of accuracy of the prediction, and to see if it match with the attribute that is in the list. So we have two cases. We have open list of attributes and close one. Close one is really simple, as I just explained. The difficulty is when you have open list of attributes with several ways to write the same word or to name the same object. So here it is mainly manual, as everyone work with this kind of solution. You need a human in the loop at one time to be able to give this information to the algorithm, and the algorithm will be able to have a propagation of this knowledge on a bigger scale, because with the language model is going to understand what the user is doing and so on. So it depends really of the quality of the taxonomy first at the beginning for me.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, it also depends on the quality of your model. So if your model is not trained really well, it will be inaccurate. I think the idea makes a lot of sense, of course, AI also makes mistakes, but you need to go to a level where AI is just better than human, and because be honest, visual checks, how well does that work? You know, I mean, there are. I think the practicality is, I think if for many companies, if you look at product information, I still think there is a lot of issues with product information, and it also has to do. I think it's impossible to visually check all the information. So I think that AI could be a very helpful tool, and maybe even a necessity, because I think that AI will lead to more content and more targeted content to specific target groups, maybe even on an individual level. And so I think that is really interesting. If I just look a little bit at the future, that is what it really gets my attention, because I also am very curious how the PIM vendors will develop themselves. It will lead to, I think, more information, more individualization. And I would also be interested how the target systems like e-commerce or maybe marketplaces are going to deal with that. So that's something. But yeah, I think it makes sense to also have to do validations with AI.
Yeah. And active learning, yeah. Our point here is that our positioning and what we are doing is that we work only with companies that have millions of products.
Mm-hmm.
And the manual work on that millions of products is just impossible. If you look at our references, it's only marketplaces or very big multi-languages and multi-countries. So I think there is a place for human control and human work. And one day, when you have this catalog which becomes so big and it becomes unmanageable, you have to take an automation solution, which can be AI, which can be rules based, but whatever. Because as a client said to us one day, I prefer to have 40% automated than to have 100 but by hand, because it costs so much money that it's just not possible, in fact. So maybe the quality of the content will be different. We have a differentiation between the quality of the contents, depending on maybe on the channel or on the strategic, or the bestseller products and so on. I think that it's a kind of complement of human work, in fact, for these very big players that can do it by hand. It's just impossible. We have worked with Walmart. It's just unmanageable by hand.
Yeah, so and I also think I agree, but I think if we look at what's happening today in the economy, and not only that it is, everybody knows it's slowing down a little bit, but there is also lack of people doing work. So lack of resources, lack of hands. So I would expect a lot of interest of customers and prospects to get to a high level of automation. And basically, and for me, a little bit the question is, first of all, I think you need to have your basics right, your basic householding. Then we talked about PXM today. So what is the experience of product information online? That means you need to have appealing content. Hence, just having it correct and complete is not good enough if you want to compete. So it needs to be appealing. That means appealing means something different for different target groups, I would think. So I think I would expect that AI is going to play a role in that. And I also think, and that's also, I think, an interesting question for companies who are doing implementation. And maybe I don't know if, for example, how Akeneo looks at this. The role of the people working with the system is going to change. We can see it already within our own company, for example, within marketing, that you're going from content creation to more validation and prompt engineering. So there's a complete shift going on, and so that yeah, are the people who are working with the PIM today, is everybody fit to work with the system, like, well, whatever, within maybe a year or 2 years from now, because I think this will go very fast.
Yeah. How do you see this, Tony?
This is still the question on the quality of the attributes.
Sure. Yeah. Well.
So,
How? Yeah.
look, it depends at what stage of the enrichment you look at this. If it's at the entrance, when you upload it into the PIM, and you've received this, let's say, from your suppliers, that's exactly, in this case, one of the use cases that Unify tackles. Once the model is already trained enough and has good experience with your flows, your type of files, yes, it can probably indicate like, okay, you know what, the dimensions here don't make sense, because in 99% of the other cases, let's say instead of 10 kilo, yours says it's 150 kilo. It's just not realistic. It doesn't happen. So that's one example. Yes, it's possible. Then during the enrichment itself, is it possible to generate an attribute of high quality? As of right now, if it's an attribute, let's say an ERP name, yes, we can do that. Very high quality, probably better than a human being, because it follows the rules strictly. But is it, for example, a descriptive attribute? Well, that's a question. I mean, in the end, looking at the final results through one of your employees, whatever ChatGPT, for example, has generated, is probably good at the start. And if you're more comfortable, leave it. And then finally, at the final stage, before the attribute leaves the PIM, is it that attribute good enough, let's say, for the Amazon destination? That's something that we are still basically tackling right now, but that could be another major productivity boost. So the answer is really what type of attribute, at what stage of the enrichment process, and where is it going? Yeah.
I could also add maybe it depends on the level of verticalization you have in your industry. If we take, for example, apparel or luxury goods, they don't need AI to do that, because they have all the information within the company, and they have very good informations to work on. For example, when we work with a luxury good company, they have so beautiful images. It's very easy to work with, and so on. When you are like a marketplace or something like this, you don't master the source. You have so much entropy and heterogeneity in the information that has been said. It just become very difficult, in fact, to do it the old-fashioned way. So I've seen in the chat some very good remarks on regex, and the example of the dimension that we know also very well is a good one. But when you have a growing number of attributes on the one side, and on the other side, a growing number of products in your catalog, at one time it's become just a nightmare to manage.
Yeah, and how does that tie into the whole visual thing, Jean-Philippe? I know it's maybe a bit early to discuss, but you mentioned it during the demo as well.
Yeah.
As the wholesalers maybe have catalogs of 10,000 of products, and they only have very basic data. Maybe it's unbranded couches or unbranded dining table chairs. How does a visual tool help in those settings?
Yeah. So what is interesting is that it's circled back with the question before, because we use images to verify the attributes extraction. So, for example, if we have in the text a red dress, and we see that on the image it's green, it's quite easy for an AI model to say that there is a problem. So even there, we just push it to a human to ask him if we set up a rule at one time to say what information is prior to the other. When we say human control, it's on a very small. It's what we call few-shot learning. It's on a very small sample of the data. We don't ask for every product, because, as we said with Tony, there is a training, and at one time the algorithm is reach the threshold of accuracy and reliability, and so after it's okay. as soon as you don't have a new source of data with a new taxonomy. So it's a never-ending process. In fact, if you have always new suppliers, new vendors, and so on, so it's interesting because it takes less time, but to the people, but it's work. You have to work. It's not magic, as we said just before. So images.
Can you
It
also
can be used for that.
attributes from an image, like this trouser is red, it is a trouser, it is a short, this kind of options. Do you have this possibility too? I got this question recently from a customer.
We do it. Right. We also have the context of the product, so we can see, for example, for a chair, if it's in the kitchen on the image or in the bedroom. So we can guess in which category it will go if the taxonomy has different categories for this kind of chairs.
Sure. Okay.
So this is the two main. What is interesting is that AI and generative AI is very powerful on images and text. And e-commerce content and product information are images and text. So the idea is to leverage what we have, the more we can, in fact. So the images could be very useful for the context and to verify information to see if there are some coherence between the two sources of information.
Right.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's also interesting to know is when we talk to customers at the very beginning of their journey with PXM, one of the ways to conceptualize is, look, there's 3 layers to data. Layer number 1, that's the very basics. That's things like color, width, length, variations. That's simple. Then the second layer is a usage data or usage description. How can I use, you see this in marketplaces. Okay, I have this TV. Well, this TV, it's great to put in your living room. That's also fairly doable. The next layer, and that's where the art comes in, and this is very useful on the B2C side, especially for the more high-end segments, where they really tell you a story and present that experience. That's the hardest one. That's also where you really need creativity. I would say layer 1 and layer 2, we can probably in the near term cover with AI. That next layer, number 3, we really appeal to the emotion. That's going to be a more challenging one, and also more fun to work on as a person dealing with product info within a company.
Very true.
Yeah. Seeing this as sort of it's data in or garbage in is garbage out, of course. So I think using AI in the onboarding and data quality is a very good first application. But maybe if we dream a bit further in the world that Arjan basically created, where we have a I don't know, where I go shopping in the future for a new set of dining table chairs, and it looks sort of like my own kitchen because my browser only knows my type of personality and my style, and also knows in what kind of home I live in and what my style is. Will I get a setting on a product page that looks like my kitchen or my must-have kitchen, and will it include descriptions that fit my personality? So that might say the chairs are great to have dinner on, that are stain resistant for my children, but also great if you have an impromptu call that you need to make at the kitchen table. Is that where we're going?
I think that we are all working on that. We have some legal issues on that kind of personalization. First, we must have so to personalize the experience is something that we are all working on. I think to personalize by personas, by lifestyles, and so on. Yeah, we are working on that. For the moment, we are only do event personalization. So it's not at a personal level, it's more at an event like Black Friday, or something like this, to rewrite the descriptions for that kind of event, because it's the easy one, to be honest. The next one is more complicated. Why? Because if we start, as I may understand in your example, Stefan, that we can generate some information, we must be very careful with the legal part of this generation. If the product is not exactly the same, or if you have hallucinations in the way that the product is described and you receive it, and it's not it's a very bad product experience at this time. So we must be careful, but we are going there. What is interesting is that is it integrated or not in the PIM, this kind of AI tools? We have our first mention in a Gartner report on e-commerce tool, and they start to isolate this kind of tools from the rest of the tools, because they have at Gartner this vision of hyper personalization enabled by generative AI. So Gartner, they are visionaries. So, but yeah, we are going there.
Yeah, super interesting. In what world would you want to live, Arjan? So how do you see this also in practice with customers, and are their data models ready? Is their data ready for this?
No, I think and there's a number of questions in what kind of world do I want to live in. So I don't know if I'm happy with having machine learning models knowing me better than myself. That's big. Yeah. Don't know if I would be happy about that, but yeah, you don't think about that every day, of course. Are customers ready for this? I think from multiple points of view, no. Not from a data point of view, not from a mindset point of view. I think that management level, there is very ample understanding what the possibilities are and the speed of this development. So I think for many companies, it also means going back to the drawing table of your maybe even your IT structure, the toolings you have. And it's not only PIM, because I think this audience understands that PIM has evolved, I think, in the last 10 years from something, is nice to have. For some companies, it was already must have, to a very fundamental pillar of your digital success. So you cannot do without, and that necessity will increase, that need will increase. But I think that developments are going really, really fast. So that means that customers need continuous support of companies like Calago. And this is why we always have a phase 3, which means continuous improvement and continuous discussion with the customer of what they want, what is going on, what the developments are, and how it's going to help them. But my expectation is it's going to massively impact. And especially, I think it's still a little bit not really visible, but I think as soon as the first companies show real results with deploying AI, I think we will see that the awareness will quickly grow. But yeah, I think there are many things. It's not just starting to use a tool. It means you can address your market in a different way. You can be more dynamic. You can play more with seasons. You need to have, what I said, specific target for specific target groups, maybe even on an individual level. I would expect that even on the touch points, it's going to have an impact. So that means that the targets that need to be serviced with product information will change. So I think this is a massive change. And I would expect it will go very quickly. So most of the times with innovations, you see like this, there is the hype, and then everybody want to jump on it. Then it's not that good as we think. Then it's going to crush down, and then the reality steps in, and then slowly it moves on. But I would not be surprised if we don't have this off the cliff of expectations, but it really goes like this. And so, of course, we are using AI internally in our organization. I've been talking for our marketing with an expert last week. Yeah, it's really astonishing what you can do. and basically the same for us. Just take a step back, look at your marketing strategy, look at your goals, and how can you utilize this technology to get ahead. That's what I think.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit what. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Do I think that companies are ready for it? I think on multiple fronts, no, not from a mindset, not from an understanding, not from their data. I still think that a lot of them still struggling with the data fundamentals. Supply integration is a main issue still with a lot of companies. Yeah, so I think yeah, I'm really curious to see how this plays out.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, Akeneo has the tooling, right, and has the AI integration, at least now with the Unify acquisition. Maybe you have all the components in place, right? So, but looking at it from a customer perspective, right? I want to have maybe not the fully chat generative or the generative, the generated description and the generated images yet. But I do want to have this already, like that is the future. But today I want to have this integrated experience, right? Where I see, I don't know, a product in my Instagram feed. I go to a shop online, an e-commerce store, where I see the same image, should be in the same setting. The description should match the description should match, the attribute should match. How do you see the current customers working on aligning that full product experience right now, Tony? And where do you see the bottlenecks for customers?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of questions in there, but
Yes,
let's
I
go
know.
one by one. First of all, where are customers now with AI, and how far can they take it? Look, we're still in the early stages, and like Arjan said, it's possible that we're at the peak of inflated expectations, and then suddenly we'll basically fall off, and we're in the trough of disappointment, of disillusionment. But to come back just quickly on the previous questions you had of, are we going to a place where things will be hyper personalized? I think we are on our way, and how long this journey will be there, we'll see. But right now, already, I can see myself being targeted as a young father, like in the Amsterdam region, like whatever it is, which website you visit, they'll pop up with baby stuff. They already know this, so that's one thing. At some point, will they talk to me like in my name and say, "Hey, your kids"? Well, maybe right now it feels a bit too intrusive, but we're on our way. How long will it take? We'll see. And I don't think we have the regulatory framework to make that happen, which is very important. For example, China is ahead of this because lanes are open; you can do that. Now, customers here and the major challenges. It's important to note, and this is something Jean-Philippe has mentioned a few times. It's not magic. The models have to be trained. So keep that in mind. That's number one. And how you train it, how thoroughly, with what type of quality is important. So that's something to keep in mind. So keep the that in mind. And also, you may end up working with more AI solutions than you think, because there will be various databases that are trained in something specific. How to integrate all of them, that's going to be another interesting challenge. We'll see. There's many different hypotheses out there. And last thing I would say is start with the basics if you haven't started yet, like generating simple attributes with something like OpenAI, could be anything else, frankly. Uh, Focus on the simple attributes like ERP names or basic translations, and then see how far you can take it. It also depends on your industry. How strict are you monitored from a regulatory point of view? If you're in, let's say, if you're an online pharmacy, you probably want to double check everything just to be sure. So that's some of the guidelines I would give, and probably enough to start with.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. We have some interesting questions from the audience as well. We have some questions on I would say IT architecture level. I would love to maybe answer that question live. So in a setting where you want to drive the full product experience, you get input from different sources. In this case, the question mentions the PLM, product lifecycle management tool, and the ERP, but there's obviously multiple inputs. How do you combine those into the perfect product experience?
Is that for me?
Sure, what you want? Yeah,
Okay.
pick it up.
So one thing about the relation between PLM and PIM, it's possible we've seen customers link it, but important to note. Let's say this is the start of a product lifecycle, and this is the end. The product is ready already, like it's finished inside the PLM. If it's at the start, you don't want to send that to a PIM. That's not where it's supposed to be going. If it's towards the end, it's almost complete. Yes, you can send it to the PIM for the final touch, and they can be that relationship. That's fine. But it's if you have the idea of somehow at any point in that life cycle a product towards the PIM, just complexity that will produce more headaches than solutions. To only take it if it's towards the final phase to give it the final touch inside the PIM, then it's okay.
All right. Do you want to add anything to that, Arjan, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I want to add something to that. Absolutely. So, so I think there is a relationship, and this is basically on the data model. So, so the one of the with the integration of PLM and PIM, one of the things you need to resolve, you need to have a process, and I think governance in place. Is that also in PLM, people create attributes and fill out attribute values. And one of the things to take into account how to manage this, how to have a good governance on this, and where in the process you have this integration, because otherwise your process get kind of stuck, so to speak, and you have to do all kind of emergency actions during the process. And of course, it is, and we are talking in a very, I would say, generic way. There's a very, very big difference in kind of products and complexity of product lifecycle management, and also PIM between one and another company. You know, you have very basic, simple products. You have very, very complex products with a complex design and so on, a complex go-to-market. So so it's a very interesting subject, which has, I think, complexities. And I agree with Tony. I think that just bluntly doing all kind of integration, I think it indeed causes more headaches than to solve anything. So so that's what I think I can add for now.
Cool. Makes sense. Makes sense. We're already more than 90 minutes in. I also want to be mindful of the energy levels of the audience before they all, well, head off into the afternoon. Are there any closing thoughts any of you might have? Anything you wanna add to the conversation we already had? Jean-Philippe, do you have anything you would like to?
Yeah, for me, it's just the beginning. Yeah, it's an exciting journey. So let's see what is coming now. AI is doing incredible improvements. We all the challenge is to use it the right way and to have the good level of control on it. So yeah, I think that this is where the battle is today.
Okay, cool. Arjan?
Yeah, so maybe I want to add something. I saw that Walter asked me a question, and I want to share that with everybody. So when is a PIM implementation successful? Well, one of the things is what I would say, and especially because if you look at Akeneo as a SaaS solution, has new features, monthly, quarterly basis. We hear today about the rapid developments in AI. So I would say PIM implementation is not a project, but is a process. So basically, we always tell our customers, once you're done with the project, we begin. So once you have implemented your solution, then you need to have a process in place which continuously monitors what's going on, what are the changes, how can we apply, how can we improve. And within Calago, we call this phase 3, where we support and help the customer. I would also would like to advise companies who have PIM in place or want to do that to have a clear product owner who is keeping the organization smart and up to speed on all the developments and everything what's going on. Because I think there is, if you do it the right way, if you play the game the right way, there is a lot of opportunity to beat your competition. And I think that's also a little bit of game and fun to do that. So that's what I want to share with the audience.
All right, cool. Tony, last but not least.
I'd like to echo some of the things Arjan mentioned. We have this idea in mind at Akeneo called a PXM champion. That's the final destination in a way. And when we get there, we have more stuff to do. But how you get there is exactly what Arjan said. It's a journey, and you start small. You become a PXM adopter, then slowly you grow and you become an innovator, and then more things, and finally let's say the holy grail, the North Star. That's the PXM championship. It's a journey. Today we've shared a lot of info to come at you, and just keep that in mind. And throughout that journey, there's companies like Calago. I vouch for Calago any day. Outstanding partner that we've done many successful projects together, but also support from us as a vendor. Through to offer things that only Akeneo can. And one thing I can tell you: to start small, to play around with it. We have options on that on our website. Feel free to sign up if you want to just click around for one of the trials to see for yourself how it is. And if you're based specifically in Northern Europe, feel free to contact me directly on LinkedIn or wherever else, and I'll help you there. If you're based anywhere else in the world, please check it directly through the website, because otherwise I'll have to reroute you, and it's a bit more efficient.
I think they know where to find you, Tony. But indeed, if not, then for sure, I would say you can be found on LinkedIn. That's for sure. All right, cool. I want to wrap up this conversation. I want to thank you all for listening in on this conversation, having a look at the demos, and hopefully they inspired you. Hopefully our discussion inspired you. If you have any questions left, you can find all our speakers on LinkedIn. I'll also make sure to send a follow-up where you can reach them. So either on the websites of their companies, so on Akeneo, YZR, or on Calago. We'll be reaching out to you with a recording of the event, because the recording the full event has been recorded. So if you missed anything, or you joined us late, or you had to walk out because there was an important phone call, you can watch the full recording back. And we'll do that early next week. And we'll also have some collateral and maybe a special promo as well for you. So be sure to check your inbox, either in your email or in your LinkedIn inbox, and we'll definitely be in touch. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the speakers for sharing their interesting demos and also the interesting thoughts on PXM and mainly AI. And I would say we'll be organizing a lot of events in the coming weeks as well. So I hope to see you there. And if not, I would love to say goodbye and have a good